it was just SGC and BGS. That was like their only competition. So now they've acquired SGC. So now Beckett is the last man standing, essentially. And I wouldn't be surprised if something happened with Beckett, because they've fallen on hard times. They've fallen on hard times in terms of their reputation and their market share and everything else that they do.
They just never bounced back, did they?
It just seems like their leadership team is not taking the initiative, to do what they need to do.
And then I felt kind of bad. Then what was the last year? They decided they felt like they were getting bitched at all the time for having a 9.5 gym min instead of a 10. So they went with the 10 idea, like to follow PSA, but with their subgrades now. And then everybody turned on them. I was like, what happened there, man?
I talked about this before with Beckett. I feel like they're just, they make these little moves and then they get backlash and then they backtrack. They're just not they're not firm on their moves or their initiatives that they're taking, which I think is hurting their brand. But they still have a very powerful name in the hobby, and that counts for something. So we'll see what Beckett decides to do in the future.
BGS, yeah. Zach again, wonder what will happen to SGC values short term.
I wouldn't be surprised if they went up, because the way that the hobby works, we're just like the stock market, where if there's any type of news that comes out, people will trade on that news in the short term.
Okay.
Right. So I imagine people will be buying up SGC cards in SGC slabs that have a lower value than PSA right now, lower market value than PSA, thinking that the SGC values will come more in line with PSA, which would make sense, because if they implement a universal grading standard, a PSA 9 should be a SGC 9, a PSA 10 should be an SGC 10 or whatever, right? So if the values, which SGC is usually always lower than PSA, so if the values come up with PSA standards, there's some arbitrage there. So I would imagine people are going to be speculating on that and buying up some cards in the short term.
There's a podcast called Between Two Slabs. They consume mass media. It seems so sad. It's the great curator and Merlin.